Okay, let me start by welcoming you all to Physics 101. The title of the course is Introductory General Physics, Mechanics, and Fluids. The bulk of the material we're going to be covering in the course focuses on mechanics, but there is a bit of fluids towards the end of the course. My name is Alex Palameta, as you can see here, and I will be instructing this course. I guess I can start off with, I guess my contact info is going to be the most useful thing. So the best way to get a hold of me is my email address, which is right here. This is going to be the way that you guys submit all your graded activities, and also how you can contact me for additional questions or meeting times or whatever. Okay, I'm not going to have any office hours because nobody is really on campus. So there won't be any way for us to meet face to face, but I do have, well, we're going to set up a number of meetings during normal class times, and then I can also set up additional meetings through either Blackboard or whatever other video conferencing app we need to be using to get a hold of each other. So let me start off with a sort of format of the course. Because of the present COVID-19 situation, all of the lecture portion of this course is going to be handled as though it was an online course. Like, really, this is an online course at this point. So I'm going to be posting the material from the class on Blackboard in the form of mini video lectures and lecture notes that accompany those mini video lectures. I'm not going to break up the lectures into 90-minute blocks like classes normally would be. Instead, what I'm going to do is let the content sort of decide where natural breaks would be. So I'm going to produce a bunch of between 15 and 30-minute videos that are going to, sort of break up into different topics in the chapters that we're going to be covering. And I'm going to talk more about the content that we'll be covering and the textbook here in a second. But just be aware that the course is primarily online, and all the content will be available to you guys to watch and interact with whenever you want to. So videos and lecture notes. In addition to that, we're going to have meeting times through Blackboard, through the video conferencing app in Blackboard at these times every week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2:30 to 4. And those meeting times are going to serve as sort of a problem session / question period. I'll usually come in with maybe an example that I can do to start things off. If you guys have any questions, we'll talk about it. I expect that they're rarely going to last the full hour and a half, but those will be the sort of easiest way to get a hold of me and ways that we can discuss the material. So the best way to sort of make use of those times would be to have reviewed the material beforehand and have whatever questions you might have ready for that time period. And as I said, I'll have announcements and potentially some examples to do during that time, but I won't be formally lecturing during that time. All the lecture material will already be up in the form of these YouTube videos and lecture notes. Okay, so we can move on here. As I mentioned, all of the material is going to be available on Blackboard, so make sure you're able to log into your Blackboard and you have access to this course. I'm assuming that that's where you got access to this video that you're listening to now. So yeah, just make sure you do have access. And I guess the next thing I can talk about is the textbook. So the textbook that we're going to be using is College Physics from OpenStax. OpenStax is an open source textbook, so it's basically a free-to-use online textbook that you can make use of. It's actually a really good online textbook. There are hard copies of it. We don't have any available in the bookstore, but I've supplied the ISBN here if you guys want to buy it. I bought a hard copy off of Amazon, but honestly, I rarely use it. I pretty much exclusively use the online version or the PDF, which you can download from the online version. It's easier to search, and the actual textbook is quite large, and we're only making use of about 11 or 12 chapters of it. There's a bunch more chapters, and it's kind of cumbersome to use. So I would recommend just using the online version or downloading the PDF from them and using it from there. It's much more handy, and it's free. As far as your marks, where are your marks from this course coming from? Well, we're gonna have a bunch of well, this is the breakdown here. We're gonna have a bunch of assignments. We're gonna have We're going to be covering 11 different chapters, which I'm going to break up into 11 modules, and each of those will have an assignment. So we're going to have something like 11 assignments, pretty much exactly. If we run out of time, it may end up only being 10, but it'll probably be 11 assignments. There's also going to be 2 different term tests, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. And there will be a lab, which you should all be registered for right now. I'm not going to talk too much about the lab here. I'm going to let the lab instructors handle that. And then there's going to be a final exam, which is going to be worth 40%. So 15% for assignments, 30% for the 2 term tests, 15% for your lab work, and 40% for the final exam, giving us a total of 100%. Okay, and you can see how the letter grades break down here. These are all quite standard, but you can check that out when you have some time. Okay. So let's continue moving on here. The graded exercises. Okay, in this section I'm going to talk a little more about sort of assignments and term tests, how they're going to work, how many there's going to be, and so forth. So let's start off with assignments. As I mentioned, I'm expecting that there's going to be about 11 assignments over the course of the semester, and as I mentioned, we're going to be covering 11 chapters from the text, which is going to correspond to 11 modules that I'm going to build out on Blackboard, which will have, each of these modules will have something like between 3 and 5 little videos attached to them, and an equal number of PDFs with lecture notes that I've come up with for you guys in them. But after each of those modules, there's going to be an assignment, and they're going to be roughly 1 per week. We have about 13 weeks in the semester. We're going to lose a few days here and there because of holidays and so forth, but we're going to end up with 11 assignments. And so maybe I'll talk a little bit here about the assignment submission, like the way that I'm hoping to have the submission work here. So what I'd like to see is that everybody each person's going to need to do their own assignment, right? Like so students will be, you guys can work together, and of course you're going to have to be careful about social distancing and so forth. But if you have friends or people you want to communicate with remotely, by all means work together. But each student is going to have to submit their own copy of the solutions to each assignment. When you do submit them, you're going to be submitting them to my email. So to this email that I showed above here, to this email. The assignments will always be due on a lecture date, and for us lecture dates are these days throughout the week here. So the assignments will always be due on those dates, and you can submit them up to midnight of that night. I won't accept any late submissions, and when you submit them, you need to submit them, as I mentioned, to my email in the form of a PDF. It has to be a PDF so that I can open it. And I would really not like to see any pictures. I need to see clear work that I can easily read. So make the grading easy to me so I don't have to search for ways to get you guys marks, right? Make it clearly legible. Use a scanning app. There's a number of good scanning apps for your phone. Use a scanner. Find a way to translate whatever you have written on the page into an easy-to-read PDF that you can email to me to make it easy for me to give you marks, okay? So I think that'll be the best way to work that. With the 11 assignments, we're going to drop whatever your lowest assignment mark is and just count your 10 best. So if you miss an assignment, you don't have to worry too much about that. At least that will end up being the one that you can cancel. Okay. As I mentioned, I believe before, there's also going to be 2 term tests throughout the semester. Each is going to be worth 15% of your overall mark. They are scheduled for Monday, October 19th, and Friday, November 20th, okay? And each of those, so the way I'm hoping that this works out is that we're going to get through 4 modules and then have a term test, which means you're going to have 4 modules worth of material to cover. There will have been 4 assignments and then a term test. And then again, 4 more modules with 4 assignments and then the second term test. And then after that, we'll only have 3-ish modules left to cover, and then it'll be finals time, okay? And the way that the term tests are going to be working, because of the current COVID-19 situation and the fact that this has become a totally online course, they're going to be take-home tests, right? So the way it's going to work is I'm going to post the term test on Blackboard at the start of our lecture period. By lecture period, I mean by our online meeting period, shown here again. So at the start of whatever date we're doing that term test on, I'll post it on Blackboard, and you guys will have until midnight of that night to submit it back to me in the same way you would submit an assignment. So in the form of a emailed PDF of scanned legible work, right? And so the way it's normally going to work out is I'll post these at whatever, say 2:30 or something on our lecture date, and you'll have all the way to midnight to submit it. Now, it won't take you until midnight to do it. These are all designed to be done in 90 minutes in the class period block that we would normally be meeting for. So you should be able to finish it in the 90 minutes, but of course I'm not there to watch you, so you do have extra time if you want it and if you have it available to you. But you do have to make sure it gets back to me by midnight. So you have ample time to then scan it, even if you have some sort of technical issues, your computer stops working, or you have internet issues or something. That's what this extra time is for. You have all the way up until midnight to find a way to get this submitted back to me. After midnight, I won't accept any more submissions, and we'll move forward from there, right? So any additional sort of policies as far as taking exams go are sort of listed in this section here. I won't go over them, but basically don't miss the exams. You guys have ample time to do them. You have extra time because they're take-home exams, and make sure you submit them by midnight. Okay. As far as the lab work goes, well, the first thing I'll mention is there's no labs the first week of class here. And after that, I'm just going to refer you to your lab instructor to tell you about how the labs are going to work. There's a number of protocols in place. Labs are face-to-face this semester, but there's a number of safety protocols in place. All of this is going to be discussed with you in your labs, so I'll leave that to the lab instructor. Just make sure that you keep in touch and you're aware of when your labs are starting, and you can get there to get the information and get started with those. And as I mentioned, labs will make up 15% of your overall mark. So I'll leave the lab discussion there. The final again is going to be a take-home exam. Again, I'm going to design it such that it will fit into the standard 3-hour time block that you should have for the final, but I'll give you extra time to submit it. So again, we don't have a finals date yet for our course. Those are being generated by the university sort of in the next few weeks here. But somewhere between the 14th of December and the 21st, including that Saturday, our final will fall on that date, and it'll be the same procedure. I'll post it at the time that the final is supposed to start. You guys will have until midnight of that night to submit it back to me through a PDF that you'll email to me, and I'll design the exam such that it should be completable in the time frame that would normally be allotted to the final. Okay, so we can talk a little bit about the course outline here. So this is sort of an outline of all the content we're going to be covering in the course. I realize that if you haven't done the course before and you're not sort of familiar with all these topics in physics, a lot of this won't make too much sense to you, or won't be very useful at this point. But at least you can follow it as we go through. Maybe one of the most important things to point out about this course outline right now is that I've included these bracketed numbers here, and these bracketed numbers correspond to the chapters in the textbook that we're going to be covering, right? So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to try to make our modules map kind of somewhat directly to the chapters in the book that we're covering. So for example, our first module is on kinematics in one dimension. The module is going to cover pretty much everything that's covered in chapter 2 of the text, and so you can use the video lectures along with the lecture notes and these chapter numbers to sort of get a number of different perspectives on the content that we're covering, and hopefully it makes the ideas clear to you. Okay, and so we're going to be covering, well, we can go through it here. We're going to be covering chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we're going to skip to chapter 16 and back to chapter 11. Okay, so all in all, we're going to be covering about 11 chapters of material, which is going to map to about 11 modules of stuff that I'm going to put up on Blackboard, and those are going to result in 11 assignments at the end of each of these, right? And so that's sort of how the breakdown is going to go. I won't talk much more about that. We'll leave that there. Down here I have some additional information about registration policies and so forth. I put up a number of links here for registration deadlines and withdrawal deadlines and stuff like that that you guys might find useful. All this stuff is available online, and it changes from semester to semester, so I don't put the actual dates down here, but if you're interested, it's all there online, so please do check that out and make sure you're familiar with those dates in case you find that you need to withdraw or something. You don't want to miss any of those deadlines. Okay, I've also put up some of the late withdrawal policy here, which you can read, but there's a lot more available online. I won't go into too much detail about any of the other stuff here. Maybe I'll just quickly point out the academic misconduct policy stuff here. Just make sure you're familiar with what constitutes academic misconduct. We don't want to have sort of any misunderstandings or issues in that department, right? So that's sort of the outline of the course. Before I conclude this video, maybe I'll just quickly mention that I'm also posting a math review in the sort of 0th module of the course, in the introductory module of the course. This math review is not something I'm going to collect, so I've posted up in the format of what an assignment might look like. The math review, and it's really for your own interest. It's just a tool for you guys to do. I suggest everybody does it, but I'm not going to collect it. I'm not going to grade it. But it's just for you guys to get a feel for where your math skills should be so that you can successfully and easily engage with the physics we're going to be doing in this course. You should be able to do that math review pretty easily and pretty quickly. If you find you're having trouble, it might just mean that you need to catch up a little bit on some of your math or brush some of it off, and it'll sort of indicate to you if there's anything you need to take a look at. If you're finding that you're having a lot of trouble with that math review, please email me and let me know. I can help you out. We can set up some additional meeting times or whatever it is you may need to sort of get up to speed, right? I'll also be posting the solutions to that math review, but I suggest you don't sort of just look at the solutions right away. It's probably best if you actually try to answer those questions, make sure you can answer them easily, then take a look at the solutions and move on from there. And as I mentioned, if you run into significant problems, please contact me so that I can help out. We don't want to be waiting until weeks into the course when you're missing some of the physics going by because you're not understanding the math that we're using, right? And that's pretty much it. I'll leave this video here, and yeah, I'll see you guys at the next one. Thank you.